Afternoon.
Afternoon, Sam. Obviously, we've known each other for years, but for the benefit of those watching this recording, we'd like to tell them a bit about yourself and your involvement in INCOSE UK.
Yeah, so I'll start with I was born a systems engineer. Didn't discover it for quite some time. I'm electrical engineer by education. That's what my degree is. And actually, my first job was systems engineering, and I've been doing it ever since. Joined INCOSE in 2003, and found that I was in a family at that point. And I've been quite involved over the years with various things, but always the things where I felt I could make a difference. So I helped out with the Z guides when they first came out. I got involved in the EU conference, the USEC in Edinburgh in 2006, where I set up and ran the Tool Vendor Challenge. I was part of INCOSE UK Council from 2013 to 19 as comms director, because again, I felt at that time it was just right. I knew what I wanted to do. I could make a difference. And I'm currently also co-chair of an international working group on systems engineering and quality management. So yeah, it's been a long involved journey with a number of different tutorials, papers, presentations, and attending events, even if I'm not actively involved in the presentation side of things.
Yeah, I remember you said quite well. I have vague memories of him. Someone won a bottle of champagne, but there are no champagne glasses, and we want to use our little mugs to go and partake. I guess the real question is, what's the spark that made you think this is your time to put yourself forward for being president-elect? Was there something that sort of clicked in your head and thought, that's me, this is my moment?
Yeah, it's not something I ever wanted for the longest time. And last year at ASEC, I got really enthused by what's coming and what's happening, and not just enthusiastic about it, but I feel that with my more recent experience, my leadership experience, my mentoring experience, that I could actually add something to the leadership team as we transition into IFSI and beyond. And it totally caught my imagination last year from having never wanted the role before to being actually very enthusiastic about it.
Well, that's good. So you don't feel like it's just your turn to have the burden. It's actually a thing you want to do, and actually you've got that real sense of purpose.
The time
that is good.
is right for me. Yeah.
Good. It's always good to have that. The enthusiasm, the kind of sense that yes, this is the thing I want to do, rather than this is the thing I have to do. There's enough of that in the job already. So obviously you've been involved in the council before, but how do you think it's changed since you were last involved? What do you think you can see that's different?
So I haven't seen inside the INCOSE UK Council meetings since I left 5 years ago. What I've seen of the whole organisation is that it's changed almost immeasurably. I know there was a lot of change from the time I joined as comms director to the time I left. The organisation has been getting steadily bigger and more focused towards the professional activities, less of a club, more of a professional organisation. And that journey was still on, I think. So there's more. I think there's a little bit more governance. The governance is a little bit stronger than it was maybe when I was on council before. And we're definitely more focused around the professional registration activities and the engagement with Engineering Council. And I think we are better as an organisation in our own right than we were, less just an add-on to the international, and more something that stands alone. But it's about the organisation maturing, which it has done for all the time I've been a member, and I think hopefully will continue to do so.
I mean, that for me was one of my big things, was just the realization that we actually are an institute because someone says we are, we're regulated as such. And if we're going to be an institute and regulated, we need to actually act like one, look like one, feel like one. And so, that journey really was there just to actually turn it from, as you say, a club into, we still have the social aspects, but it's much more about being the thing we need to be.
And I think that sense of belonging won't go away and doesn't need to go away. That sense of when you get to an ASEC or a local group meeting or something of that sort, or a working group meeting, you're there with like-minded people, and you're able to just relax your language a bit and talk systems engineering rather than having to modify your language for the other people around you in the business world, where you're dealing with non-systems engineers, and we end up talking what appears to them to be nonsense, but we know between ourselves that we're making perfect sense.
Well, that of course is the kind of group therapy aspect, isn't it? The kind of coming together and just realigning ourselves and making sure we aren't off on some weird tangents, but actually we are broadly talking sense.
Yeah.
That's always been the case, though. I suppose it always will be. So, how do you feel about the transition from INCOSE UK to IFC?
I think it's really exciting. In some ways, it's a name change. We're still part of INCOSE International. It doesn't have to strongly affect that relationship with international. But in other ways, I think it's really significant that in cases, particularly, I've moved to infrastructure in the last 5 years, working with people who don't have a long history of working with systems engineers, and they don't necessarily see us as equals. And then we say, oh well, we're in INCOSE. That's just it's a foreign organization. It's nothing to do with us. But to be able to say we're the Institute, protected word, for systems engineering, full member of the Engineering Council, licensed member of the Engineering Council, Professional Engineering Institute, on a standing with the other PEIs. I think that is really significant, and that name change in the list of institutes with the Engineering Council, I think, helps our credibility with other disciplines. I think for me that's probably one of the biggest things that it actually does for us.
That was certainly the intent, was to try and get that local repositioning within our own national ecosystems, as you say. So we're an eco institute with other people. We're one of the collection, and the name has to fit to make it all seem okay.
It's getting the messaging out. The underlying what we are, what we do, doesn't change. It evolves because it's always been evolving. But the change to IFC isn't fundamentally changing that journey of what we're doing, but it totally changes our messaging to other institutes and other professional engineers.
And certainly my experience of being within that boundary now is that we get so much more sight of what the Royal Academy is doing, what else is going on, that this is stuff we used to chase after. We used to find out after the event and run after it to try and grab onto the coattails. We now see it as a train coming towards us, and we have the opportunity to get on board or not each time, and that's hugely helpful. So I'm delighted with how it's all kind of, as I step off, looking and shaping up. And there has been interesting times with explaining to the people across the pond what we're doing. Why, in fact, yes, it's a name change, but it's not a complete sea change. It's just things are being kind of rearranged, and boundaries that perhaps were always there but weren't drawn properly are now being firmly drawn in because they have to be.
Yes.
But that's the problem, that we're now regulated by somebody and part of something else. And those two things overlap a bit, but not very much. So a lot of straightening out, really. So moving on, obviously, do you have any personal priorities you want to pursue, things you're particularly keen on bringing to the party?
I do. There's a couple of things. So, for one, I've recently changed my job. I'm now working for SEMP, who are firmly in infrastructure, which is where I've just come from, is also infrastructure. SEMP are actively supporting me doing this role, which is really nice, giving me not just the time and space to do it, but also the enthusiasm to support me with it. So making sure that as we develop in what we're doing, that we're picking up infrastructure. And I know there's a lot of interest in infrastructure from within the UCAB. So I definitely want to kind of carry on pushing that infrastructure side of things through. The other thing I've got really quite engaged with and enthusiastic with over the last 2 or 3 years is the apprenticeships. So I've had a couple of people go through the level 7 apprenticeship, or who are going through that level 7 apprenticeship, and I've been starting on trying to get a level 3 apprenticeship on its journey. So we're not at the definition stage yet. We're still very early in that. But what I'd like to do is to get that level 3 and then the level 5, which will support us with getting Eng Tech and iEng registrations, as well as the CEng, which is supported by the level 7 route. So yeah, I'd say that apprenticeship education piece towards the professional registration at the different levels is something that I'm really quite keen on seeing through.
I mean, certainly we've had a few Eng Techs come through, but not that many. It is much more as you would expect, CEng, iEng, that sort of thing. So it is, yeah, a slightly untapped market perhaps. And quite how you get there. But I suppose once again, if you're doing an apprenticeship, you're going to find out if systems is for you fairly early on, and then those who do are going to keep on going. So
Yeah, and the level 3 is a destination for some people and it's a step on the journey for others. So it gives people a softer route in than saying you can either find your own way and try and get Eng Tech without that course that's specifically designed for it, or you can just launch in both feet first at level 7. And those two extremes are not really quite right for so many people.
yeah, that's fair. And infrastructure, I mean, I do agree with you. I think it's a big area that there's a lot of nasty, complicated, overlapping parts that need to be resolved. And if you think about the Dutch do this all the time. When we've been to conferences abroad, everyone you meet from Holland, they're all infrastructure people pretty much who are dealing with lots of just things that all are built on top of everything else, and it's just natural for them. And I guess we're probably in the UK seeing some of that coming through now, just in terms of it's not just about holes and concrete and steel. It's about actually what's the use of the thing, what's it for, how does it fit with everything else. So yeah, I think it's a big
And how does it fit with
untapped.
itself? So
Yes,
just the internal integrations in large infrastructure projects are hugely problematic if you don't think about them properly. And we've got a lot of the right tools for thinking about them, which, yes, it's been done without systems engineering in the past, but things are getting more complicated, more interrelated, and we will hopefully be able to add enough to improve the predictability of the outcomes to reduce the overspend on large projects by putting proper systems engineering in place.
yeah, I just find you have to kind of step back a bit and kind of refocus what the important bits are, because you cannot bring, say, your defence mindset to a civil engineering project. It won't work. You have to kind of
Absolutely.
understand which bits are really important here and then moderate your approach, which is basically good consultancy in many ways.
And that abstraction is what we do as systems engineers.
Um,
We are naturally good at that, and we're abstracting the lessons we've learned in defence, aerospace, automotive, and bringing them to a new industry. And I think we're well positioned to do that.
I certainly hope so. So finally, a bit of legacy thinking, even though you haven't started yet. 6 years' time, when you finally step off this journey, what would you like to be remembered for?
I'd like to have made things a little bit better. So just generally, it's always good to have things a little bit better when you finish than they were when you started. Um, I'd like, I think, to be remembered for leading a change in perception, external perceptions of us as an an equal discipline in the engineering disciplines, and of the people that you should go to at the beginning, not when it's all gone wrong, can you fix it? But engage us at the beginning, get us involved in those early discussions. We'll add value throughout, but if we can start adding value at the beginning, then it's so much better amplified. So yeah, I think it's that external perceptions that I'd really like to make a difference to.
So both seeing systems people as the kind of the go-to people at the start, not the other people that
Yeah,
you want to have in the room because they'll help you.
yeah,
That would be a nice place to be.
yeah. And that's a tall ask for 6 years. But I'm, working on what's gone before, and everything that we've done has been building consistently towards that better perceptions, increased professionalization, and it's another step on that same journey. So I'm not looking to change the direction we're traveling in. It's just about making that next step and helping the whole organization make that next step. And obviously we don't, any of us do these sort of things in isolation and on our own.
Well, exactly. I mean, you're in a position where all you can do is try and encourage other people to pick up the mantle,
Mm.
and then sort of put a bit of welly behind it. But you'll have enough other things going on. But it's about then sort of maximising how you're going to use your time to best effect what you want to get done.
Yeah.
And then finding people that can cover everything else for you. So thank you. It's been good, insightful.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck when it's your turn.
Thank you. And sorry not to be working with you on the team because you'll be out the other
Well,
end of it.
I'm still hanging around a little bit longer.
Excellent.
There's a little bit of unfinished business called IFSI that hasn't quite got over the line. So myself and Derek are staying on as associate directors just to kind of see it over the line until the point comes we can finally declare it done and move the members across.
That's good. And I'm really excited to get started. I've
Good.
got all my stationery in order, ready to go. Fresh notebooks, new pens, the works.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in Edinburgh.
Indeed, I will be there.